What problem do you want to solve with Vidit?
When weddings happen, quite often guests will come together
I need you to give me a masterclass on negotiation.
I'm thinking about negotiations that I have done over the years.
Karen Forbes, an accomplished technology executive and entrepreneur. At Kindrel, she has led global strategy, customer advocacy, and regional operations, driving innovation and transformation across complex organizations. She is also the founder of Vidit, a pioneering video guest platform that redefines how people capture and share meaningful experiences.
Give me a masterclass on sales. Teach me sales.
I think it's just really seeing the value proposition for the customer.
Good to see you again, Karen. And
Good to see.
I would like you to talk to me a little bit about your background, your childhood. How was it?
My childhood.
Yeah.
So I grew up in the East End of Glasgow. And I had a very nice life, I would say.
Awesome.
So I really enjoyed school. Primary school and senior school, and I was involved in lots of sports, lots of extracurriculars, played a lot of instruments, tried a lot of different things, and so I had a very lovely start to life, I would say.
Awesome. That's really nice. We are still we'll go back a little bit to your childhood. Was there anything because I know definitely Vidit is still at the infant stage, it's about just 4 months. Was there anything in your childhood that prepared you for what you are currently doing at Vidit?
I suppose throughout my career, so obviously Vidit is in its infancy, but throughout my working life, I have moved around a little bit and followed my passions. And I suppose growing up in an environment where I felt that I had lots of opportunity, which I know is not everyone grows up in that kind of environment, but for me, I was surrounded by opportunities to try different things and encouraged to follow my passions. And so I suppose in my adult life and my career, I've run a business before, 2 actually. I've moved around quite a bit. And so I suppose with regards to Vidit, it's an idea that I've had for a while. And given my experience in childhood of just throwing myself right into the thick of it and really going for it and indulging in something that I'm passionate about and something that I care about, that has, allowed me to come to Vidit with the same energy.
Awesome. Because that energy is very, very needed. It's required more than money, more than funds, the motivation to keep on going, to be able to, try things out. And of course, the last time we met physically, you are still trying something else, how you were working. And, which I love the role you are doing then, business development. Any business that has to succeed has to know how to do sales, has to know how to talk to people. How did you think that's all of the things you've tried in the past, the 2 businesses you've tried in the past, how do you think it has prepared you for what you are currently doing now?
I think all of the experience has just allowed me to continue to develop the skills that I have had. So sales is a massive one, and it's really important in business, right? To enable growth and to enable scale. But to be a good salesperson, I think you have to be a great people person. And so when I worked in that role in business development, that was different for me because I was working alongside a sales team and a managing director who had a very clear vision for the business. And so it enabled me to work within a team, which with a managing director, normally when I've run businesses before, obviously I am at the top of the table. I am the one making decisions. I am the one that has a vision for the business. But in working with that organisation, it was a new experience for me and further enabled me to enhance my kind of people skills in terms of working with upline managers and buying into their vision for their business and yeah. So that really allowed me to enable to grow skills I already had.
Also.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are starting a business in Scotland, a technology-based business in Scotland. And I think I was reading somewhere that there are about 25 ecosystem, accelerators and all of those things around either Scotland or Glasgow. I can't pinpoint now.
Okay.
How has it been for you? Did you receive any form of support? How has the support been for you with this business that you are working on in the ecosystem?
Well, I can actually announce today that I was accepted onto the Barclays Eagle Labs Female Founder Accelerator. So that press release has just gone out today. But other than that, I think I haven't engaged in any accelerators. So Vidit was registered in June. That was when we started the business. When I started the business. So I suppose it was just tapping into the networks that I already had access to, and speaking to people who had a bit more experience in like CTOs, people who had more experience in developing the technical aspect of their business, and they provided me with support. So I think for me, I would say for the initial launch and for the initial build of Vidit, we've only been running for a few months, but Barclays Eagle Labs is the first Barclays Eagle Labs accelerator. It's also they've paired with Accelerate Her, so it's Barclays Eagle Labs and Accelerate Her. That's the first accelerator we're part of. But I would say for me getting started, I just really looked into the great network of talent that there is in Scotland. I mean, there are so many brilliant founders and CTOs and CMOs and all that, who have built businesses and who are now in Scotland looking to support founders and people who are looking to, scale their businesses. So that's really what I've tapped into in the first stages of growing Vidit.
Okay. So you're saying in the first stage of growing Vidit right now, you are currently tapping into different network that you were part of before now, and you are leveraging on all of those ones. I'm saying I want to understand how, for somebody who doesn't live or stay in Scotland, how does the ecosystem support your dream, support your ambition? Do you find support?
There are lots of accelerators, and I think if you reach out to the people who are running the accelerators, even if there's not an accelerator running in that moment, the organizations that run these accelerators, they are very open to receiving communication from founders who are looking to tap into the Scottish ecosystem and who are looking for support to grow their businesses. So that's all over LinkedIn. However, if you are outside of the ecosystem and you're coming in, if you go along to an event that's hosted by Barclays or by Codebase, KPMG also host events. I mean, there are events all over Scotland. You go along to those events, speak to founders or speak to the people who are running the events, and they will tell you about accelerators that are running. And it's a simple case of finding the accelerators and people who run the accelerators on LinkedIn and reaching out to them. And so I find that the accelerators or the whole ecosystem is very welcoming. So people are always happy to talk and give advice and give support.
Well, one of the things that I also found very, very a bit strange and really, really good and encouraging was the fact that people were willing to help. When I was starting out my first business, when I got to Scotland about 3-4 years ago, I usually come for an event in, across the building then before they built this place. And I found it's very, very encouraging. You have people make introductions for you. And I think it helps. And which brings me to the next part of the things that I've seen that so many founders, I see them make, especially people who are starting new. Their GTM, their go-to-market strategy or go-to-market time is always winded and very long. Like I believe in building an MVP, get to customer very quickly. How are you trying to tackle that with Vidit?
So I'm aware, having been in the ecosystem for a while, that there are lots of founders that it takes them a long time to get the product to market. And I'm aware of all the problems that are involved and the reasons for that. For me with Vidit, I had this idea for a long time, and honestly, I had a CTO that I know quite well reach out to me, and he was like, let's grab a coffee. And within about 10 minutes, he had built what was basically an MVP for my product. So my experience is different from a lot of those founders. It's not a case of being more motivated or having more resources. It's a case of our product is a very simple product. And so thankfully that has been the case. And so we have very quickly been able to take our product to market as it is. So he built that MVP, and then, I jazzed it up a little bit and made a few changes here, there and everywhere. But it is still it's a very basic platform, thankfully. So I have not had any of the struggles in terms of building. Yeah. And I'm very lucky, because I do appreciate that it's very, very difficult for a lot of founders that have big ideas and they don't have that technical knowledge. And I think also, you'll get very technical people who are willing to have those conversations with you, etc., and spend 10 minutes or half an hour, whatever, helping you. But the reality is that a lot of these people also have full-time jobs, and it's not, it's almost impossible, I expect, to be able to get someone to come on board and really help you to build without the funding that you also require. So I think that's a really big problem for a lot of early stage founders. It's getting that funding.
We're going to talk about funding later. Yeah.
Okay.
Just because the last conversation we had just here now about, he raised about 1.5 million.
Okay.
Yeah. But he has exited the business as of now. Well, he has done extremely well. I could make introduction to the two of you. And yeah, so, think, if you are thinking about funding at the later stage of things, and in fact, the last podcast, there was a whole masterclass that he gave on how to raise funding. It's really good. And the fact that, and one of the things I love with the Scotland ecosystem is that people are very, very approachable. You could, this same person, about 3-4 years ago when I came to Scotland, I actually saw him at an event and I booked a coffee meeting with him. I went to his office. We had a chat for about an hour, and 3-4 years when he came here today, he didn't remember. I had to remember. He said, okay, so it is you. I said, it's me. And he as of then, he gave me a roadmap of how things should work, things you can try out. And I made it a point of duty to ask him questions that can help somebody, who wants to go from zero to raising probably 500,000. How do you do it? Especially as the landscape is changed over the years, it's the landscape for funding has changed. Then we'll go back to the idea that you are working on.
Okay.
What problem do you want to solve with Vidit?
So I worked as a videographer in the wedding industry for a season, and that was enough. I was very, very successful in the go-to-market strategy for that business, and I was fully booked for the entire summer. So I did something like 60 weddings over the course of about 5 months. And so you're filming all day, and then there's about 20 hours of editing off the back of a single film. So it was a full-on time. So one of the services that I offered was a video guest book, where I would pull guests aside during the day and have them contribute a short video message to camera. So these guests have great stories to tell. So for example, like the best maid will talk about how when her friend first met her boyfriend, or her husband rather, when she first met her husband at the first date, and how her friend was when she came home from the first date, and how, as a friend, she knew that she was going to marry this guy, Or, the father of the bride talking about how, he was worried as his daughter was growing up about the kind of man that she would fall in love with, and would he find himself compatible with the husband, and would the husband be everything he had hoped for his daughter, and he is, and then so he will go on and talk about how much he loves the partner that she's found and how much he lights up their lives, etc. And so there are lots of amazing little moments there to be captured, but there was a big problem there in terms of when weddings happen, quite often guests will come together and say, the couple have gone to university and their graduate friends are now living all over the world, etc. And so they maybe haven't seen each other in years. And then you bring all of those people together, and the 5 years of life has passed, and there's all of these changes that have happened in their lives. And when you put all of those people in a room together, it is just roaring with chatter. And so it can be quite difficult to take people away from that crowd and ask them to contribute a short video message, especially when they're not prepared for it. They maybe don't know that there's going to be a videographer doing guest video messages. And so as much as the bride and groom always loved the guest video messages, and it was often the most treasured part of a wedding film, one of the most treasured parts of a wedding film, we missed a lot of content because we could not get some guests to become involved, or the guests would say a short piece to camera because they're not properly prepared or expecting to relay a short message to camera. So we missed out on all of that valuable content that is so meaningful, because the guests have such lovely things to say and stories to tell and memories to relay and, advice to give, particularly from the grandparents. They're often, big on giving advice on how to have a happy marriage. And so we missed all of those, we miss a lot of those treasured moments. So I set up Vidit in order to enable couples to be able to sign up via our platform. We send them a link that they then send out to friends and family, or they drop it into the WhatsApp group chat or the Facebook group for the wedding, and guests can take the time to create that short message in their own time, whether they're coming to the wedding or not. Often you'll have couples who are eloping and there's maybe just a very small wedding, but all of their friends and family can still contribute a short video message. So that was a pain point that I recognised as a videographer, and Vidit is the solution. So we can capture all of those beautiful moments, and they're kept in, we call it like a little time capsule from around that time. So you see Gran, how she was at the time the wedding was happening, or, little 5-year-olds, who can't speak properly yet or whatever, is dancing around in front of the camera. Like, all of those beautiful moments are captured around the time of that wedding. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thanks. I think so. It's beautiful for anyone to be able to look back on that.
Wow. Well, combining your experience with your experience as a wedding videographer, so talk to me about your go-to-marketing strategy. Don't let me get ahead of myself.
My go-to-market strategy. So what's really interesting is, my initial thoughts on how the product would work or how we would sell it has evolved considerably since the initial launch date. So initially, when I established Vidit, I thought we're going to go business to business. So we're going to sell the product to videographers and photographers who can then sell it on to their clients. The trouble with that is that a lot of the great videographers and photographers in Scotland have spent decades in the industry, and they have magnificent reputations. And as much as I already have an established network in the wedding industry, I was a videographer in the wedding industry about 8 years ago. So they're not strong established networks, but also it's a new product, and as much as you can have a great network and good relationships and whatever, you cannot possibly expect a videographer who is 20 years in the industry building his business to start selling your product when actually he's probably not making a great profit from that sale, to be honest, compared to what he does make generally from a wedding film. It's a very small fraction. We cannot expect them to sell our products.
Mm-hmm.
So that initially that was my thought. We were going to do that. And then I spoke to lots of videographers and photographers, and they were like, hey, Karen, we think that's a great idea, but we're not going to be able to
sell it.
To sell it, but also just the management. Like, I just think if there was a lot of difficulty, not that the product is very, very, very simple to use, but of course there will be inquiries and that kind of, there may be a little bit of hassle involved in that, and we don't want to put that onto the videographer and photographer, because during the height of the wedding season, videographers and photographers who want to be very, very busy are very, very busy. And so that was our initial go-to-market strategy, was that we were going to go B2B videographers and photographers. That will come back into the fold, I think, as Vidit grows and we have that great reputation there, and we can afford to have staff that, can be on the end of the phone and all, just manage it much better. So that was our initial go-to-market. Spoke to lots of photographers and videographers, got that feedback, realised that was not going to work. And so now we are speaking with venues. So lots of venues will offer packages to the bride and groom. So when they sign up, when they book for the wedding, the venue will provide a preferred suppliers waiting list, and that will have lots of suppliers, videographers, photographers, caterers, all that jazz. And so we are now looking to get onto those preferred suppliers lists for venues. So that is one of our go-to-market, or part of our go-to-market strategy, and the other is direct to consumer, and that is through wedding fairs and also across social media, which has been traumatizing initially. I would say just kind of getting over myself and being out there on social media. Not traumatizing, that's a ridiculous way to describe.
That was so serious.
I had to get over myself basically, and go onto social media. And so we've been on TikTok and Instagram, and actually that has been great. And we have got lots of great feedback from potential clients on there, people who are interested in booking with, it is just, again, alive with chatter across, TikTok and Instagram. And also there's just lots of great suppliers on there. So it's just a really great place to get feedback on your product, but also just talk about the nature of the wedding industry, what's working for them, what isn't working for them at the moment, so that we can further refine our strategy in terms of, our social media strategy. So that is our current go-to-market approach.
That's pretty neat. Are people using it currently now?
So we have bookings. We don't have but we don't have a paying client currently using it at the moment.
Okay. What's stopping you from doing that?
What is stopping? So the bookings that we have are towards the end of the year.
Okay.
So we don't have people currently using it at the moment. So I have had friends and family use it for birthdays and that kind of thing. So we have had lots of that, but in terms of our first bride, that has not happened yet.
Okay. If people can still use it for birthday.
So they can use it for birthdays, yeah. So, but I think what I want to be, so initially, obviously we have just launched the product, and if any of your viewers are interested in using the product for birthdays and things, I mean, certainly reach out. That we can definitely accommodate that, and we'd love to just get feedback on the product. But Vidit is, so there are companies who are offering video collection services for birthdays and for conferences and what else? For graduations. The Vidit product is very, very different from that service. We are not one of those companies that are offering it across the board. We offer a bespoke edit service. So with those other products, this is not bespoke editing at all. So we offer our product as a premium product that's specifically targeted for the wedding industry. I am a very experienced wedding video editor, and the editor that we have coming on board is also a very experienced wedding editor, and so it's not an automated process. It's very much a
So
we know what you want to see. Like when I talk about the 5-year-old dancing in front of the camera, like we know that is something that you want to see, when no one's talking. We know that when it takes Gran, 5 minutes to make sure she's getting herself in the frame or adjusting the lighting or whatever, like we know that is content that a viewer would want to see. And so all of that content is included in the edit, and the edit is done by an experienced editor.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. You send people sign up on the platform.
Yes.
If I'm getting married, I sign up on the platform, then send a link to everybody that I know that I want to collect their videos. Then they send messages to me. They do video. They do a video recording. They upload it back to me. Then you will edit all of this video as one collection. Is that the way it works?
Yes. So when you sign up for your platform, you're automatically sent an email with the link attached to that. And then along with the email and the link, there's a little, how to create a great video PDF. And you take that link and that PDF and you send it out to your friends and family. So however that works for you, however you've been communicating with your friends and family who are attending the wedding, you just drop it into that chat. So they will look at the PDF and then they can create a short video on their phone and upload it. They basically click the link, upload the video to our platform, and then we take it down at the back end, edit it, and then send it on to you.
You collage it, edit it, then send it back to you.
Yeah, then it's transferred back to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's neat. So if somebody is trying to, because you've moved from zero to one, so to speak, you've moved from the idea stage to the product stage, then you're trying to get to the market right now. Right? Am I correct?
Well, we're in market, so we have bookings.
You have, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you moved from the idea stage to the product stage to now you are in the market, have bookings now. What advice do you have for somebody who is just at the stage of the idea stage and it's taking extremely too long?
I think that I have done this myself, and I have seen it in people around me who are setting up businesses or who have an idea. I think that you have no business without a customer. And so I think that when you're at the idea stage, the way to get to 0 to 1, or when you're looking at getting from 0 to 1, you just really need to have proof of you really need to prove your concept. You really need to make sure that you have product market fit. You really need to make sure that your go-to-market strategy is the right one. And the way to do that is to speak to the people that you're looking to support your go-to-market strategy. So for me, obviously, it was those videographers and photographers initially, and speak to your customer. And so I think that I even found it for myself actually with Vidit when I spoke to the photographers and videographers, and they were like, this is a no-go for you. And I thought, and then I kind of retracted into myself and just, and then I thought, no, I need to get back out there. I need to be able to do it a different way then. I can see that there's massive value here for couples. So I just need to figure out another way. And so I just think you need to, if your go-to-market strategy relies on partnerships, you need to be speaking to those potential partners to get their feedback. And they might come back to you and say, listen, like this, we can't do this, or we can't afford this, we don't have the budget to pay for it, etc. You need to get feedback from partners that you're looking to work with if they're part of your go-to-market strategy, and also your customers. Just really make sure that you do the groundwork, you do the legwork. We've all seen those silly memes on LinkedIn where it's like a founder trying to get his product into, to get product market fit, and he's trying to like hammer a square through a circle. Like we've all seen that kind of thing. And so, but I think that can happen if, perhaps you're focused on building the product and you've got your kind of blinkers on and your head down. And, I think that trouble can lie there. It's so important to get out and speak to your customer and just make sure that you have the product market fit, or you have, proof of concept, or you have validation from your customers that yes, this is something that we would love to have and something that we can afford to pay for. So I think that would be my advice. Of course, I haven't just raised 1.5. I don't have loads of experience, but just for me, from my experience and going from 0 to 1, getting out there and speaking to customers and speaking to potential partners has been the thing that has got us to market and got the bookings.
That's pretty neat. That's amazing. I love the fact that you had an idea and you are actively talking to people who could help potentially, you could potentially work with, because I see it a lot of time where somebody somewhere have an idea, they are not technically inclined. They start looking for a technical person, then start building the products, then start building an amazing, fantastic products that nobody wants to use. I love the fact that you first of all went to the people who you are building this product for, and you got feedback from them and use the feedback to for future for each iteration, which is actually the way to go about it. So the next question I would want to know from you is what it's still, Vidit is still pretty new, and it's definitely going places. But in the 4 months you've run this, what would you have loved to change in the way you probably started it up in running it? What do you know now that you didn't know 4 months ago before you took the plunge?
I think for me, so Vidit in the early stages is going to basically be founder-led. So on social media, I am the representation of the business. And so I think for me, we have only just joined social media, so about 3 weeks ago. So I think for me, I would have been more active in our direct marketing to customers. So I spoke to customers at weddingers and that kind of thing, but I think that I would have been on social media earlier. That's not advice that I give to other founders, because I think that it's very individual for every founder, and a lot of the time you have to spend more time thinking about your go-to-market or your strategy, or exactly what the value proposition is and how you want to pitch it to your customer. But for me, I was very clear on that. I was very clear on the value proposition, and so I think that I would have had more fun on social media, if I had started at the very beginning. So I would say that's probably something that I would have changed. But my advice to other founders would be just, speak to your customer and speak to your part, because it can really drive you on as well. I think if you have blinkers on and you're working on your product and you're working on this wonderful go-to-market strategy that you haven't proofed or you haven't spoken to customers, etc., it can bog you down and slow you down. Whereas I think that if you're out and about and speaking to customers and they're like, this is amazing, we would love to have this and love to use this, and partners saying that they would love to work with you, I think that can really drive you on, and also just really give you confidence when you're speaking to people who could potentially help you in your journey and join your team. So I think that would be my advice, is customers and partners.
Good. That's good. That's very nice. Thinking about it, I'm soaking it in.
You're so what? Sorry?
I said I'm soaking
You're soaking it in.
So, because the next question I have for you is related to something you said about you talking to, because I found that very, very important for me, talking to the people who you want to work with. How did you, and again, the fact that you've left the industry for about 8 years, how did you start making the connection again? How did you start reaching out to videographers again?
So what I did was I used women's networks that I'm already a part of. So there's Scotland Women in Business, Scotland Women in Technology. What else is there? There's another organisation, Glasgow Girls. There's Egg in Edinburgh. And so I did lots and lots of networking and told everyone about the business and who I was looking to speak to, videographers and photographers in industry. And I got a lot of warm connections through that, a lot of warm introductions. So I would say that was the quickest way for me to do it. I utilised networks that I already had, and I went to those networking events with a clear idea of who I wanted to speak to and what my ask was. So that was mainly how I got introduced to videographers and photographers. And then otherwise, I just reached out to videographers and photographers that I already knew in industry. And then I would say, could you intro me to someone else? Could you introduce me to this person, that person? And so that was ultimately how I did it. But I think if you did not already have an already existing network in the sector, use what you do have. So if you have access to these female networks, or if you don't, and that might be a great way for you to ask, go along to these networking groups where everyone has an ask and everyone has their own business, and you can intro people as well. You can ask people what their problem is and how can you help them solve it, and you can provide that support as well. So I think that's what's great about Scotland, is that there are so many of these networks and people are generally willing to help. So yeah.
I do, what you just said now, I find Scotland to be a place that is open to helping people. I don't know how it works in other places, but I find it very, very, very open to helping, open to introducing, warm introductions, and moving from, because those are the things that you need to move from point A to point B. With the way artificial intelligence is touching virtually everything, how do you think AI will impact what you are trying to build, or what you are building? You're not trying, you're building.
How do I think it will impact?
How will it impact it?
I don't think that AI will have much. I think what it will enable us to do is scale in the way that eventually we might use a bit of AI to support in the editing, because there will be so much editing to do, because there'll be so many clients, etc. And so I think that with regards to that, I think that it would be really useful for us. But in terms of the actual product, I don't think it will have much of an impact. I think that personal connection is always going to be something that is extremely important.
Definitely.
And therefore, I think people will always want those memories, I think as people spend, although actually I hope that as more people adopt AI, they actually have more free time for real human connection. So that's my hope of, not that we can expect someone to do more work in a considered amount of time, that actually the work will take them less time and therefore they will have more time to
do other important things like human connection.
Yeah, that make them
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about funding. Let's talk about funding. If a potential investor is looking at you now, what's your value proposition? What's different about you, your team, your product that can, why should they invest with you?
Why should they invest with me? I think what I would say is that I'm not 100% sure that we are actually going to be looking for angel investment or VC investment. Just doing the figures of what the first year in business is going to look like. I'm not sure that we're going to need it in the first year, and then just looking at what the figures are, so it's something that I'm thinking about, but it's not something that I'm sure that we would need. I think when I think about angel and VC investment, I think do I want to take a magnificent swing in terms of after the first year and we have real proof of concept, real proof of product market fit. We have loads of traction across social media. Do I want to take it? So our next step is the States, but it's, do I want to take it, worldwide in year 2? And I think if that is, I kind of feel like I want to think about the first year at the moment. I mean, we're super early doors right out of the gate, right? But I think for me, if I decide that that's the kind of business that I want to run, I want it to be international, and I want all of that responsibility, and I want all of that staff, and so then that's when I will start to think about, if I want to take it outside, past the US and internationally. I imagine that's when I would need to start seriously thinking about how much we would actually need in terms of marketing and staff and, all of that kind of thing, in order to be able to build our brand in, Asia or other areas of the world, and even the US. But at the moment, I'm just thinking the UK is the testing spot, basically, and we're definitely going to the US, but the UK is a testing spot. And then I think we would then look at the figures and think about whether a raise is something that we would want, because I think that I feel that in Scotland there's a lot of, you just have to raise some money. That is the feedback, or that is what I see a lot of the time. And I think for me, what I think about is, when you take on VC money, it can be amazing, right? In the way that it can enable you to catapult the growth of your business and hire the people that you need to hire. But those investors are taking their money and putting it into your business, and they expect to see a return. And there's a huge sense of duty that should come there as a founder to be able to pay that money back and, give the investor the return that they expect to get. In my mind anyway, I know that investors lose, 50% of their, I don't know what it is, but I'm sure, they invest in 10 businesses and one succeeds. But so for me, that's a big consideration that would come into that. But I suppose, sorry, I've forgotten the question. What's my unique value proposition?
Yes. If you want to raise fund, if you want to raise any rounds, perceived, all of those things.
Do I want to raise? So the answer is, I am not sure yet. The answer is that thankfully the product was very simple for me to set up, and so I don't need to have a massive technical build and hire a CTO on a 6-figure. So do you know what I mean? I mean, I don't have to hire those executives at this stage. I don't need to build a lot of the back end of our product at this stage, and so at the moment we're not looking to raise.
That's it. And I also, is one thing that I find very, very amazing. Personally, it may not be a good thing. I love products that the founder can foot the bills a little bit. Then I prefer it when a product is also something that the customers can fund. Like if you're able to build a product very quickly and sell it to the market. I prefer it that way. But, for some people who are building a product that they will not be able to, they will need a lot of people to run it. They will need a lot of, pay a lot of developer, pay for AWS, pay for all of those things. I prefer a business model, which I definitely understand not everybody can run those kind of business.
Yeah.
That you can, out of pockets, as a founder, fund, the initial stages, then quickly go to market. I love the fact that you have a very, very strong go-to-market strategy that you are actively working on, not just theory. And, I love your kind of business model. It is the kind of business model that an investor, if 1 year you're able to prove traction, an investor can see, okay, that means if we put, let's say, £500,000 in this business, we could get to this because you've done this. This is what you've achieved with zero. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying I love this kind of business model. Which should take me to the next question: the runway, the time it's going to take. One of the major things that I've discovered, that I've seen, that kill businesses most of the time is actually not money. It is the founders' burnout. The founder waking up tomorrow morning and not seeing a way out. Let's say you've been banging your head on something for the last 4, 5, 6 months, and you're not getting the results you're supposed to get. Then, understandably, many people quit at that point. And so that's what I want to ask you. And every founder has to go through that route. It's today you are happy, tomorrow you are not happy. Today you win, tomorrow you are not winning. How do you want to go through all these stages?
How do I want to go through it?
Yeah, it's a plan.
I would hope that I don't go through it. I think for me, as we discussed, I'm exceptionally lucky in the way that the product was very easy to build, and I am already within the tech sector in Scotland, just well networked in Scotland. And so for me, there's a lot of movement there in my business, so I don't feel like I'm banging my head against the wall. And so I think that can drive us forward. So I'm very lucky in the way that it's been very easy for me to get my product up to market, and I have already had existing networks that I can utilize to get feedback from customers and suppliers. Out with that, I would say that I'm not very strict on how I manage my time. I think I'm just very efficient in how I manage my time. So I actually have a really wonderful life. Which is probably, which I don't think people associate that with early stage founders. And I think, we all imagine the founder, sitting in front of a laptop for 18 hours of the day, getting the work done. There has been lots of studies that have proven that if you work over 40 hours a week, you're not actually any more productive than you would be if you were to, if you work 8 hours a week, you're no more productive than you would be if you work 40 hours a week. And with regards to the editing that I did when I worked in the wedding industry, I can definitely testify to that, because that was just a really terrible time for me in terms of when I was working 8 hours a week and more. So I've lived that and learned from it. So I suppose for me, I'm having run businesses in the past, and just I am just very efficient in how I manage my time, because I have learned those skills over the years and over the businesses that I have run businesses and shut them down, because they haven't worked out. But so I have learned lots of lessons during that time. And so for me, I'm just very, very particular about how I manage my time. I'm very goal orientated in that way. So this is my plan for today, and I need to do this, this, and this. But also I do things like go to my local coffee shop and get the most delicious coffee in the morning and wander through the woodlands. And I know that everyone is not everyone is able to do that. And for lots of people, that sounds like their idea of, a nightmare, that they don't want to do that anymore. But, and then I play lots of tennis and do lots of yoga, and my kids are very happy at the moment. And so thankfully, I have managed to, I don't see that something as being a problem that I am going to have, but I appreciate that lots of people live very different lives, and so I would hope that for me that I would be able to. I definitely think I'm going to have to start working a whole lot more than I have been, to be honest, and I want to do that, and I feel like I have the capacity to do that, because I feel like I'm in such a great space, personally. And so growing Vidit is something that I'm really excited about. And, working a 40-hour week, which you're probably doing right now, is something that I'm really excited about, honestly. And, all the traveling that will be involved in that. I'm going down to London a few times over the next few months. And just, I am so excited about that, but I think that I am extremely lucky in that regard. And the reason why I manage my life so well now is because I have experienced that burnout, and I'm really aware of it, because I think that when you're really burnt out, it's really difficult to get back from that. It takes a long time. I know there's a founder, Gigged AI. What's the founder's name? What's his name? Rich Wilson. So he talks a lot about burnout on his LinkedIn page, and so I've been experienced burnout a couple of times in my life, and so I'm very conscious of not getting myself to that stage. But I think going into it for founders, it's just being really aware of that, really aware of the fact that what is it Stephen Bartlett says, like, you can never, if you give to something, you're always taking away from something else. So if you're giving that 8 hours to your work, you're taking away that time from your personal life and your own personal time that might enable you to continue to be happy and to be productive.
All right. So, since you started building Vidit, what are the assumptions you started with that has changed over the time that you've been building it?
So the assumptions that I had, two of them. So the first one was, we will sell this to videographers and photographers. They know that this is a pain point. They have customers asking for video guest books, and they know that it's difficult to get contributions during the day. So that was the first assumption. And then spoke to videographers, and they were like, no, we think it's a great idea, but while the business is in its infancy, we're not willing to trial it with our customers. So that was the initial assumption. And the next assumption was that couples would like the idea and immediately be like, yeah, amazing, let's do it. The reality is that you need to communicate authentically about the business, and talk about your experience in the industry, talk about the value of the product, have people use it for birthdays and things and write reviews and that in order to then have a couple come on board and say, we're happy to be early users, we're happy to send it out to our friends and family. And I think initially I thought, why would any couple not want to purchase our product? And the reality is that, it is another task on their to-do list. And so I think in the wedding industry particularly, and when it comes to something so precious as video contributions from friends and family, business needs to be established, you need to communicate authentically. And so those were the two assumptions that I had initially that have been, I'm so happy that I've turned those over and realised that they're not actually, that's not actually going to be our go-to-market. So it's not actually going to work for us. So, those were the assumptions initially that have changed.
One of the things I love about the way you are building it is you are taking feedback, and you are taking feedback for the next iteration, which is where most people go to die. Most founders go to die when, they just stay somewhere and build the product and bring it as it. Start wondering, or another assumption that I see most people have is, which is something you touched upon in a little bit. So I built this amazing thing. Why will you say no to it? So give me a masterclass on sales. Teach me sales.
On sales, I think it's just really seeing the value proposition for the customer. So I met you initially when I worked for a cybersecurity company, and I remember speaking to the managing director in the interview now, and she was selling it to me, and I was like, that is why would any business go without cybersecurity measures in place in order to protect themselves? And so I think it's just really understanding your customer and understanding what the value is to them and what pain point you're solving for them. So I know that when I was initially thinking of selling to the videographers and photographers, I know that it's a nightmare gathering video guest messages because I've been there and done it. And for couples, I know that it's something that they love to have, but I'm sure they're often disappointed when they see that not a lot of people have been able to contribute. And a lot of guests wish that they had just taken the time to leave the wedding party and contribute a short video message. And so it's just really understanding the pain point for your customers, I think, and being able to communicate your solution effectively. Have your customers know that you understand the problem that they're having, the pain point that they're struggling with, and talk about, your solution. I think for sales, I just think you should not be selling something if you do not really believe in it and understand the value to the customer. And I'm sure there are lots of people who don't think of themselves as being great salespeople for one reason or another, and they don't feel comfortable with it or whatever. And I just think if you can sell your dream to a team and have a team come on board, then bring on a team, bring on great salespeople who can take that vision that you have and that understanding that you have of the problem, and who, lots of people really, really enjoy doing sales. And so if you don't enjoy doing sales yourself, direct to customer, then get yourself in a situation where you can sell the idea to a great salesperson who understands it and who is happy to come on board and do that selling for you, I would say. Yeah.
Which will lead me to the next one. I need you to give me a masterclass on negotiation.
I think I'm thinking about negotiations that I have done over the years. I honestly don't look at a negotiation as being a head-to-head. I don't feel that you should be. I think if you find yourself clashing in a difficult conversation, then it's probably not the right fit. You probably don't want to work together, because I think that negotiation, you both want to be getting the best resolution there. And I just think you have to approach the negotiation with a real understanding of what the other person needs to get out of it, what you need to get out of it, and then just work through all the fine detail. I don't think that people who are hard-headed are the best negotiators, really. I think you need to have great people skills, and you need to understand where that person is coming from that you're negotiating with. And I think that the person that you're negotiating with really appreciates that. I think so that would be my advice in going into negotiations, would be to really understand where the other person is coming from, really understand what your value proposition is and what your pitch is. Be really sure that what you're pitching aligns with what they're looking to get out of your product, or get out of the meeting, or get out of the service. Have a real understanding of that, and show them that you really understand that as well. So that is, and just really I think, yeah, have your backstop in mind, of course, but I think just going in with all the information and a willingness to just be open and discuss the fine details.
Awesome. Thank you so much. The last couple of 1 or 2 questions last,
Okay.
maybe just one. What will you want your legacy to be? How will you want to be remembered? I'm not saying you are going to die tomorrow.
How would I want to be remembered? As someone who, how do I want to be remembered? As someone who was authentic, and I suppose I won't say as someone who was happy, but actually I think there are obviously times in my life where I've not felt really happy, and I don't think that being unhappy is a negative association. So I think that for me, I just want to be remembered as being someone who is open and cares about people. I care a lot about the Scottish economy, really, and so if I could grow business, grow Vidit, and create jobs, and generate revenue, tax revenue for Scotland. That is something that I would really love to do, and I suppose be remembered for. That seems totally crazy to think about that, because that is such a bar that's so far removed from where I am right now. Obviously, we're in the first year of Vidit, but if I was to provide value for Scotland in terms of providing jobs and income, then that would make me happy.
Thank you so much.